For today's Essential Heretics 101 feature, Coinbase Chief People Officer L.J. Brock reveals how the company's mission-first philosophy, refusal to negotiate salaries, and rigorous talent density standards challenge conventional HR orthodoxy. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the HR Heretics podcast.
We have a huge show on deck for you today. We got L.J. Brock, the Chief People Officer at Coinbase, on HR Heretics. L.J. Brock, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
All right. I want to get right into it. And I want to talk about September of 2020. And that is when Coinbase came out and banned political discussions at work. This became like a huge thing in the media. Talk to us about how that decision came to be and how that's played out for you guys.
Yeah. So I joined Coinbase in February of 2019. It was about 700 people when I joined. That I think Brian Armstrong, our CEO, got a lot of advice from a lot of great, very well-intentioned executives. This is how you build a tech company advice. And I think the result of that was that for several years, the company drifted like a few degrees off of like the compass that Brian had. So when you fast forward all the way to, the terrible incident with George Floyd and everything that was going on around the social justice movement, what I think we saw was that then there was an expectation for a lot of companies in the marketplace, at least a tacit expectation that companies were going to focus on things outside of their mission. And I think that's where the moment hit for Brian, where he was just clear as can be that, look, the only thing that everybody at Coinbase can be assured of that we share as a common framework is our pursuit of the company's mission. And we don't have time or the luxury of sort of focusing on things outside of that if we're going to take on this truly massive task that we're trying to tackle.
I want to talk about post the decision and what has happened, because from my view, outside of Coinbase, at that moment in time, the narrative was in the media, they're never going to hire anybody again. Who would ever want to work at Coinbase? They don't believe in diverse views and having tough conversations. So walk us through what actually happened after Brian had the post.
Yeah, well, so just even as we're getting ready to post it, I had friends that were like, "You'll never work again. You need to resign.
Yeah,
you're blacklisted. Like, this is it, LJ." Good, trusted friends who are CHROs, friends who are in CHRO search. They were doing it from a watch out for yourself kind of thing, right? But one of the things that I was adamant about was, hey, if we're going to do this, we're clearly resetting the expectations of employment at Coinbase. And so I was really adamant that we had to offer an opt-out to everybody in the organization and say, look, we're changing the expectation of maybe why you joined. We hope everybody's going to want to be here, but we're going to come back next week and this is going to be the way we operate. And if you can't do that, then we apologize and we're going to give you a generous severance. And so what did ultimately play out is a couple of things that we saw. We found that there was a tremendous amount of people who actually flocked to an environment where they were going to be free from the burden of like division in the workplace. All the doomsday that we thought was coming didn't happen. We actually flourished after that. And then I would say, the epilogue for me personally is I could create a side business on consulting with CEOs and CHROs who call me still today and say, "Hey, we would like to do something like this, but we're petrified. How did you do it?"
How do you get through that? Because that's not easy. It's like, what gave you comfort in continuing to do that and have that courage? Because that is not easy or common.
Yeah, that's a good question, Kelly. You want to get to your near-death moment with them as fast as possible. Don't be afraid of that. Like, run headfirst into your near-death moment where you two are going to go head to head and you're going to figure out, are we going to work together or are we not? And when you get through the other side, the trust and the connection that you have helps you see through this fear that people are painting at you. So I would say I was fortunate that Brian and I had already had our near-death moment together as CHRO and CEO. And so by the time we got to that kind of tense moment, I just had faith in our relationship. I had faith that he had my back. I wanted to have his back.
And so I actually wanted to get into, like, you guys don't negotiate. You guys went remote first, faster than anybody. You guys just dropped talent density. We'll get into those things. I actually want to get into, like, how do these things come about? How do you guys roll this stuff out internally? How does it come to be?
Most of them really started with Brian is the spark behind the idea. The one that probably I really sparked more was around the comp model and the single pay target. But Brian generally generates the idea. Then he says to Emily and me, let's blow this out a little more. We have this really simple thing called problem, propose, solution. And it literally is, you write problem, and it's like 1 or 2 sentences, and then propose solution. You would be shocked at some of the major things we have launched that came from a half-page problem, proposed solution that Brian penned, shared with me, and we began to edit in the Google Doc together with a whole bunch of comments and just went back and forth and iterated on. You always have to push your HR team when you're working with a founder. I always say this, like, this is Brian's life's work, right? Like, and so he's just not going to accept, like, well, this is the way we do things. Like, you have to go all the way down to the why are we doing it?
I want to talk about talent density because in my mind, I think we're going to look back on the talent density article very similar to the mission focused article in 5 to 10 years and say this was a seminal piece in tech. So for the audience, I'll give the high level view. This came out in November of 2023. And there's a few principles. Number one is that you guys are now doing cognitive testing, which is, more structured assessments. You're increasing the percentage of hires from internships. Brian or Emily, your CEO and COO, have to approve all hires. You're giving now real-time feedback for performance management, and executives are being held accountable for talent density in their orgs. So just walk us through. This is a lot. I mean, I can't even imagine like how long it took to like roll this thing out and get alignment on this thing. Walk us through the soup to nuts on how talent density came to be.
Brian and Emily have always had the strongest desire to have just a truly elite talent organization and have a really high bar. In the throes of sort of as the market, FTX blows up, finance has challenges, just general crypto. So I think one of the things Brian was like, I believe crypto is going to continue to shape the world. And I believe we are the blue chip player in crypto. And I believe we offer the very best career opportunities to people who want to be here. We should have the highest standards possible. And we should be using this time to consolidate the quality of talent in the organization. Just one of the things we took away from that moment is, even with the best of intentions, did we hold ourselves to the highest standards possible on the talent bar? And our answer was probably no. That's not to say that we didn't, everybody who joined, everybody who's been here, we thought was amazing, has great talent. But were we holding the standards as high as we wanted to in the moments of run up? No, I think we would honestly say we probably started removing too much friction from our processes in the name of scale. And we wanted to take a stance right here and right now and say, we'll never do that again. We're going to prioritize the quality of our talent over anything at this point.
That's so good. I want to get into, so the CEO approving all offers, CEO or COO approving all offers. Naysayers will say, well, how does this scale? So how are you guys doing real-time feedback?
If you're worried that Emily Choi is going to slow down your hiring process, you haven't been on Slack with her. You can measure her response in like the nanosecond. It happens, right?
That's not going to be a problem.
That's not going to be a problem.
Really fast on that point, LJ, because you're now bringing back stories for me. One of the things that we did is we actually put the hiring manager and the recruiter on the thread for offer approval. And because we did that, they were able, they got to see exactly how Tony was responding and the questions that he had. And they were in charge of responding to those questions. Do you guys do the same thing?
We have the entire exec team, all the recruiters in there, not all the hiring managers, but then the exec team that is sponsoring the hire underneath their org gets to answer or get the questions, or the recruiter. And look, I can tell you,
so good.
I'll tell you this. So we just went live last week. And I know my head of recruiting, he's like, people are scared shitless. Like they are rethinking every packet, every candidate. He's like, right now the pipeline's ground to the halt, but I can see how it's going to pay out because people are like, literally, our bar has gone up overnight. I mean,
Yep.
I will say we had a scenario where the very first candidate that we submitted in this was rejected. I think that candidate would have been hired the week before the process went live. That's us tangibly raising the hiring bar. So to your question on feedback, look, first, let me say it's aspirational. So we are not like, oh, we've got this one baked. I think there's a couple of things at play here. At the first level is one thing we're doing is we're going to move to beginning this year, a quarterly check-in on both, basic, the same old, the what and the how in our numeric system. And we're going to give everybody a rating on a quarterly basis. We are minimally hoping that every employee gets one reasonable conversation from their manager once a quarter on the what and the how in their performance and some tangible examples of that. That to me is like table stakes. The fact that that's like our minimum thing is almost, not a great moment. Like we're just trying to get there, then we'll work up from there. Now on the real time thing, this is one of those moments where I'm all in on Brian's right usually. And Brian has a belief, frankly, that perf systems suck. And, he has this aspiration of maybe starting another business someday to help like companies do this better, but that we can use a Slack-based tool to get better real-time feedback on how people are performing in a 360 basis. This will be the hardest change management we have to pull off at Coinbase because our population doesn't love this idea of like, oh, we're going to grade, they look at it as like, hey, we're going to grade everybody after every meeting or every interaction, or are we heading down the Bridgewater path? Brian operates from a different paradigm, and I think he operates from a paradigm that actually, and this is, I think, part of the job of my job, Emily's job, like to help people really understand the context. I think Brian actually is more worried about managers making unilateral decisions than using math, getting lots of data points on someone and saying, hey, the math says this is an amazing employee. Why should I let this manager sort of unilaterally rate him a 1 or a 2, right? Without a lot of, and push that. Brian is saying, the law of numbers says if I can capture more and more of the quality of your deliverables and your interactions and how you're operating, the math's not going to lie. And you should be more fearful of one bad actor as a manager, triggering some bad outcome for you than you should the law of large numbers if you're a great employee and you're really delivering a lot.
Yeah, it's so funny. It's like these employees have the same trap. They fall into the same trap that a lot of us fall into, is the same old ways of doing things. And it's just ingrained and they can't see anything else. You almost kind of like treat them like consumers, right? They have the one use case in their head with this and it's to screw me over. It's like, hey, there are 8 use cases for this new program. Let's talk through them. And that's really the change management versus the blog post. Hey everyone, we'll be right back in a moment after a word from our sponsors. On this show, we tell the truth about HR. And one of my favorite conversations we've had was with Melanie Naranjo. She put it so simply, HR isn't about optimizing for compliance. It's optimizing for people, for culture, trust, and workplaces where folks actually want to stay. That's why I'm such a fan of what Melanie and her team at Ethena are building. She was brutally honest about it.
So Ethena, we're a compliance company, which let's just put it out there. That sounds pretty boring if you think about it, right? Okay, harassment prevention training, not very exciting, right? We are very lucky in that we are in the HR tech space that's required, right? Harassment prevention training is not really optional. You need it. The question is, who are you going to use for it?
Exactly. You're doing this training whether you want to or not. But here's what she told us about the impact.
The amount of impact that I've been able to have from the HR perspective has been just huge. It's phenomenal. We're doing all these amazing things that, quite frankly, too many companies don't do because they don't understand the power of their HR team.
Instead of boring, check-the-box training that everyone hates, Ethena delivers content that's modern and impactful. We're talking 200-plus courses in 100-plus languages with a 93% learner positivity rating to back it up. They take on all the tough topics, harassment prevention, workplace violence prevention, code of conduct, and make them actually engaging. And for HR, it's effortless. Training runs on autopilot with automated enrollments and reminders. There's even a built-in hotline and case management system to help a true speak-up culture.
Look, you're going to do compliance training anyway. Why not use something that actually works and doesn't make your people want to hide under their desks? Done right, like with Ethena, compliance becomes a strategic tool. It's actually a way to reinforce your values and build a stronger workplace. Check them out at goethena.com/heretics. That's goethena, goethena.com/heretics. Get 10% off of your first year.
Your workforce is your organization's greatest strength and often its largest single expense. But without the right tools, understanding where your workforce spend is going or how it impacts your bottom line can be a challenge. That's where Planful comes in. With Planful, HR and finance teams get the clarity they need to make smarter workforce decisions, gain real-time visibility into workforce fluctuations, forecast with confidence, and adjust talent acquisition plans collaboratively based on costs today and into the future. No more guesswork, just data-driven insights to help you plan with accuracy. And the best part, Planful is fast and easy to implement, so you can be up and running in weeks, not months, with minimal IT support. Plus, as your company grows, Planful grows with you, providing endless runway for strategic workforce planning at any scale. Ready to take your workforce planning to the next level? Join over 1,500 organizations already using Planful. Visit planful.com/heretics to learn more.
So LJ, Kelli and I have been talking a lot about work trials. The one piece about the talent density article that for me felt like it was missing is like, well, why aren't you actually getting to work with these people? So did you guys talk about work trials, and is that something that you guys are exploring?
We actually have, at the end of our interview process for almost all of our roles, we give people a prompt. We ask them to lay out like a really basic sort of presentation on that prompt. And then they spend 20 minutes presenting to us and 10 minutes fielding questions and answering those. I will say even that 30 minutes gives incredible signal on like, is someone going to be right for our company? Are they going to think on their feet? Can they communicate in a way that's going to command the attention and respect of our leaders? And so that little window really does help. And then I would say secondarily, Nolan, my whole thing on the emerging talent or early in career talent is really two things. One, I think the primary adopters of crypto are earlier in career, and we need more of those people in here building products for them. And then two, I think it's the best work trial there is in the world. I get interns to come work with us for 12 weeks, and it's bidirectional. I want these interns to leave here knowing unbelievably firmly what it's like to work at Coinbase so they can intentionally opt in or not. And at the end of that 12 weeks, I think where the signal matches, where our signal says this person's going to be successful and where their signal says this is the kind of place I work, I want to work, that bidirectional work trial, that's going to be the very best outcomes we could get.
Hey everyone, we'll be right back in a moment after a word from our sponsors. AI changes how work gets done. Recruiting is no exception. Metaview is the AI platform purpose-built for recruiting. If you're looking to level up your AI adoption and see real impact from intake to offer, it's a no-brainer. Metaview's suite of AI agents works for you at every stage of the hiring process. Their platform powers instant job post creation, AI-powered candidate Q&A, insights on pipeline performance, compensation, and so much more. I've seen firsthand how tough it can be to extract consistently high-quality data from candidate conversations. I've been in candidate debriefs where interviewers told us about their feelings instead of what actually happened in the interview. And I've seen VPs and CEOs block hires because they didn't learn anything from skeleton scorecards. Metaview changes all of that. For every candidate in every pipeline, bring radical efficiency and precision to your hiring process with perfect data from every conversation. Metaview covers all of your compliance needs, works with all of your existing tools, and takes less than 3 minutes to set up. Join talent leaders at more than 3,000 elite companies like Brex, Deel, 11 Labs, and Quora, and check out Metaview. Just head over to metaview.ai/heretics to talk to one of Metaview's product experts or get started for free. You'll be up running and AI-enabled in minutes.
You had also mentioned earlier that post the Mission First article, I think the quote you had was you are trying to be more equitable and you are now more diverse. Talk us through like exactly what that means and how you were able to achieve that.
We Move to a single pay target. And we said, without exception, I can sit here and tell you, we have never since implementing this made one exception. We said, hey, one of the ways that we can impact diversity, one of the ways we can remove sort of some of the bad things that potentially happen in the world is by not saying, hey, we're going to perpetuate any compensation differences that, women or minorities or things experience coming out of school and through their career and then continuing to perpetuate that. We're going to say, when you come to Coinbase, there is one number we pay anybody who joins. And then what we're going to differentiate your compensation on is how do you perform at Coinbase? And then we focus and remove bias from that process, and we back test it, and we make sure there's no disparate impact. And so I think that has been the biggest differentiator.
You said you haven't made one exception to the single pay target. I mean, how do you hold that line?
I knew Brian and Emily when we implemented this, and the executive team had my back because we decided we're going to do it. So when we decide to do something as an executive team, we don't decide to do it except when it doesn't work for us. We decide to do it
when it's inconvenient. Yeah.
I was the DRI, or maybe Emily was the DRI, the D. But in any event, we are just inherently convicted that we shouldn't be paying people for what they delivered at their last employer. We should be paying them for the impact they had here. So the other thing we did there is we moved to this, really enhanced pay for performance model where our top performing people get 1.5 and 2x their target grants. It's extraordinarily differential.
Damn.
And Brian and Emily and the company and the board, everybody really believes in differentiated outcomes. So, you got to take for the lack of a better phrase, the good with the bad. If you want to be able to do that kind of high impact outcome, you can't be compromising on the front end, right?
You guys also eliminated the 4-year stock grant in favor of the 1-year grant. What was the genesis around that decision?
So look, incredible volatility in crypto, right? Our stock go from up to 350, 400, down to 30, back to 150. What we were also thinking about is hey, we want to insulate our people a little bit from that volatility, right? So in a world where I could give you a 4-year grant at 350, and then you might spend the next 2.5 years with the stock at 75, that's going to cause, you want to talk about stress and chaos, that's going to talk unbelievable stress and chaos in the system. So what we found is by moving to this model of annual grants, we want you to own stock, but we don't want you to necessarily have to ride the wave of the public markets and how they're valuing a crypto company. We want to give you the chance to sort of get pricing that's closer to the market at the time you get your grant. I think most people have enjoyed it, some don't. But in general, I think it's been a huge net win for us.
I did have one more question. I wanted to pivot a little bit to your leadership style, LJ, and just your background. How are you grooming? How are you developing? How are you pushing your team so they can go out and do what you do one day?
Yeah, it's actually, you know what, at this point, I tell people, I don't know, I'm probably somewhere, depending on the day, either on the 18th tee or the green of my career. I don't know, but
you and me both.
Yeah, but I'll tell you, the days where I feel like going and doing the back nine all over again are the ones where I get really energized about helping the next generation of great CHROs. And I gotta be honest with you. I mean, I don't want my team to get pillaged, but I think I got 4 or 5 people that are going to be a hell of a lot better CHROs than I've ever been right now. And look, I think it starts from a couple of things. I think, what's my style? I think one is you got to get enjoyment from seeing other people surpass you, right? You have to find this passion for helping people unlock their potential. And I think that's one of the great joys I have in doing this job. I think you got to be willing to look far and wide. I'm a big believer in heterogeneous teams. Couple of my key directs never worked in HR before they came. One was the head of biz ops. One was in growth marketing. Couple of them are from traditional HR backgrounds. You bring that melting pot together, it makes everybody stronger. And then, back to one of our themes on this, intentionality. So we're not always great about always doing it, but on a pretty regular basis, we have a once a week CHRO roundtable. I would think of this as in the experience, exposure, education model. It's the exposure model. where I spend 30 minutes sort of debriefing with them on something that only I experienced this week as a CHRO, how I thought about the problem, how I tackled it, what was the upshot of it, and debate with them how they would have approached it. I do a lot of rotations. I was just talking to Emily. I moved 2 people into rewards to run rewards who didn't have had 0 days background in running rewards when they got there. And she just was telling me like, you know what? I thought you were crazy. I thought we had to have a reward expert. You were right. It's worked out. I moved people around a lot.
I love that, moving around. I mean, if you want to be in the seat one day, you kind of go around the world.
You have to have exposure.
You have to.
You got to move around, right? So, I mean, look, I would say simple thing is one of the most enjoyments I get is helping people on that trajectory. I try to get people who are driven and have an interest in doing it. And then I try to create a lot of moments for them to like lean in and grow at that rate. And I'm looking forward. I know I'm going to be sitting back one day, I don't know what I'm doing, and I'll be watching them publish blogs and watching them create new things. I mean, I take great pride in these folks. They're amazing.
Yeah. It's awesome.
That's so cool. And I heard a leader once say, my legacy will be measured by the people that I've grown and what they do next. And that's always stuck with me. And that's the way that I've always thought about it too. LJ, like, this has been an absolutely incredible conversation. Kel, before we wrap up, is there anything else that you wanted to discuss with LJ?
No, I love the development of the people team. Someone asked me at Penda what one of my goals were joining there 3 years ago. I said, I want to see 6 people on this freaking team be chief people officers in the next 5 years. Thanks, Nolan. This is great.
Yeah, I love it. Hopefully are they all in Raleigh? We need more chief people officers in Raleigh. We need a cohort here.
I know. Yeah. I'm going out next week. Let's get a drink. But
awesome.
Some are, yes. But like you, the heterogeneous team, they're all over the place. So.
Yeah.
LJ, cannot thank you enough for the time. I learned a ton in this conversation. Our audience is going to be blown away. I think that this is going to do maybe the best numbers we've ever done. And we've had some amazing guests on this show. Thank you for your candor and your transparency, because Coinbase has this media narrative that basically all of us, that's all we have access to. And getting it, directly from you on how things are actually done there in this sort of honest way was very illuminating for me. So thank you for the time and thank you for the transparency.
Yeah, thank you for the platform. It was awesome talking to you guys. Really enjoyed it. Thank you.
HR Heretics is a podcast from Turpentine, the network behind Econ 102, Moment of Zen, and Turpentine VC. Subscribe, 5 stars, share it on Apple, YouTube, Spotify, anywhere you get your podcasts, all the things.